Hey, welcome back everybody. Today I've got 3 steps to seed starting success I want to share with you. These are tips that are going to help you get on the fast track to growing the most successful garden you've ever had this year. Stay tuned. Alright, so we're going to start off with step 1, which is seeding your crops. Now, I highly recommend that you get yourself a seedling mixture to do this, or even better yet, make your own at home. Not only will you save a whole lot of money, but you're going to get a better end product. I've already shared with you how I make my seedling mix, and you can find that video in the description box down below this video. Now, I'm using a 40-cell seedling tray, and this is a great tray. It has a humidity dome on top, and also a water catchment tray underneath the plant cells. So we're going to quickly fill this up with our seedling mix here, and I'll first be demonstrating how I go about seeding smaller seed. Here I've got some basil seed, a very small seed, and the way you go about seeding tiny seeds like this is really you just dust it over the top of each cell. 2, 3, 4 seeds per cell is fine. Generally speaking, the smaller seeds you're going to be doing larger flats of those plants, whether it's lettuce or basil, what have you. And what we're going to do is water these seeds in, which is going to help to cover them up with a bit of soil. Now here's a bonus tip for you. You can get a kitchen sifter and take some of your seedling mix and then dust over the top ever so lightly with another fine layer of your seedling mix. This is just going to ensure that you got those seeds covered. Then you can give it one more douse with the water. And I highly recommend using an electric pump sprayer or hand sprayer for this job. You can adjust the stream and make it just perfect for watering in your seedlings. Next, you want to make sure you tag your tray with the variety that you got growing here so you don't get confused down the road. And slap the humidity dome back on. Now, until they germinate and break above the surface, your seedlings don't need any light, but they will benefit from some heat coming from underneath. So for that, you can use a heat mat. But because I have my hot tub in my greenhouse working as a heat sink, the top cover also works as a wonderful heat mat. So for my next example of seeding, I'm going to go with a slightly larger seed, a cucumber. So we'll just fill up the cell block like we did the other tray. I want to share another bonus tip with you. I'm using a seed pack from last year, and when I have extra seed left, I seal up the envelope with a little piece of blue painter's tape. It works great. It makes it easy to reseal your seed pack. When it comes time to opening it up, painter tape lifts right off. So I'm just going to tap in a couple seeds per cell. It's good to overseed rather than just put one seed per cell, unless you got a really rare seed variety or very few of whatever type seed you're growing. This is just going to ensure that we're not wasting any time here, and we're going to get at least one viable plant for each cell, hopefully. So I'm just going to use this tool called the dibber to work those seeds down a little bit below the soil surface. And the larger the seed, the deeper you're going to go. The small seeds can get dusted on the top and slightly covered, and larger seed can go down about 1/4 of an inch. And just like we did before, we're going to water this in very well. And tag the variety, throw on the top, and lay it on a heat mat. And again, these seeds don't need light at this point until they sprout, but I've got an available spot here with a little heat mat sticking out on my LED grow rack, so I'll place it there. Alright, so yet another way to start your seeds is utilizing something called a peat pellet or a cocoa pellet. These are commonly found at some of the big box stores, and you can buy smaller boxes of these, or you can buy them in bulk online. This is where the real value is. You can save quite a bit of money, and if you're going to be starting a lot of seeds using this method, I highly recommend buying in bulk. And you can use all sorts of containers to hydrate these peat pellets and grow in. I've got some containers from the roasted chickens that you could buy from the grocery store. I've been using these for years. They're perfect. They got a humidity dome on top. But you could also buy these peat pellets in a kit that come with a humidity dome. So that would be another option, is to buy the kit with the tray, the dome on it. And then in the future, you can buy the refill pellets. And we're going to hydrate these with some warm to hot water is preferable. You can use cold water, it's just going to take a long time. Now, I'm a big fan of using these peat pellets, especially for growing indoors. When you're inside the house, you really want to minimize the mess that can come with moving around soil and such. And then after about 15 minutes or so, when they've fully swelled up with moisture, you can pull back some of that netting material on the top so that you can easily drop your seeds in. So I'll be dropping in some watermelon seed in these Jiffy peat pellets. And then again, using the dibber, I'm just going to press it down into the peat pellet. Now these hold moisture very well. You rarely need to water them from the time you seed until the time that you transplant out. But I'll give it a quick dose of water after putting the seeds in there just to kind of level things out. So now we'll just slap that humidity dome on and throw it on the heat mat. And yet another way to start your seeds is in sand. You can use play sand, construction sand, really doesn't matter. You just want to make sure on the bag of sand that it says that it's been washed, as many sands can contain salt. But sand makes a great seed starting media, especially for larger seed. It'll work with all types of seed, but for really small seed, like lettuce or basil for example, I prefer to stick to my seedling mix. But all you need to do is cover your seeds up with a bit of sand, keep it moist, and before you know it, you're going to have an emergence of sprouts with very vigorous root systems. Here's some snap peas that we started in sand, and just check out those roots. Alright, so your seeds have sprouted, they've grown up a couple inches, and now it's time to do a bit of thinning. This is an important step because you're more than likely going to have more than one plant growing up in many of these cells. Since most folks are going to seed more than one seed per cell, we need to go around and thin. Now I highly recommend a specific tool for this task known as cuticle scissors. These very small scissors have a sharp, pointy tip with a slight curve to it. This makes it very easy to get in there and be very precise with your cuts. Sure, a normal pair of hair cutting scissors will work, but when you make a mistake thinning out your seedlings, it can be heartbreaking. So when we're thinning, we want to cut back any of the weaker seedlings and leave just the most abundant, strongest looking seedling in each cell. And when you're done, you're left with some beautiful seedling trays, and each plant now doesn't have to fight or fend to grow and occupy the cell. Alright, well that brings us now to step 3, which is potting up. So for potting up, we don't use seedling mix, but we use a potting mix. And I highly recommend, if you're using bag potting mix, which most folks are, to dump it out in some sort of a container. I'm using what's known as a concrete mixing container. This is a 20-gallon container that you can pick up at big box stores like Lowe's for about $17. but this makes very quick and easy, clean work out of potting up your plants. So when potting up a seedling, 4-inch pots is the industry standard. It's what I like to use. I prefer to use a square pot over a circular pot. It doesn't matter. I've even used plastic cups. But to expedite the process, I'm going to fill all my pots at once and then just use my fingers to make a big hole there in the center so I can plop in my plant. After I fill my pots, I'm going to use some of this mycorrhizal inoculant, which is going to help your plants to grow vigorous root systems, less susceptible to pests, disease, and more tolerant to the various weather conditions you may be dealing with, whether it's drought or flooding. Now this mycorrhizal inoculant forms mycelium, which has a symbiotic relationship with the roots of most plants. It's not going to work with your brassica oleracea, that's your kale, your collards, your cabbage, but just about everything else from tomatoes to eggplants, cucumbers, and various herbs, it's going to work wonders. And I do recommend getting yourself a few long-handled teaspoons. You can use this for applying the inoculant, easily getting down deep into the bag. They also work great as a little scooper, helping to excavate your little seedlings and transferring them into larger pots. It doesn't get any easier than this, my friends. It only takes but a minute to go through an entire tray like this, transplanting your seedlings, and this really minimizes the shock as well. And after I transplant, I'll just go around, pat things down a bit with my fingers, and add a little bit more potting mix if needed. And now we just want to get these on some sort of a tray. I'm using these awesome cafeteria trays. They work very well with 4-inch pots. You can load up 12 of them on a tray, and this makes it easy to move around, keeps things clean, and when you water, it catches that water so you're not making a mess everywhere. And I just want to remind you, my friends, do the best you can with what you got. The ideas I'm sharing with you today, make them your own, change things up to suit your needs. All right, now it's time to water in. And for that, I'm using a houseplant watering pot. And again, another way to expedite the watering process, I like to bring in a 5-gallon bucket of water when I'm watering my seedlings. That way I can just dip my watering can in, instantly fill it, and water my plants. It's a lot more efficient than trying to fill it up every time with a hose. And these smaller houseplant watering cans do a wonderful job watering in your seedlings versus a full-size watering can, which can really just topple your seedlings with an overpowering amount of water. And just like that, we're potted up. We can now move this entire tray of seedlings under some nice light. And I'll just add here quickly, from the moment that your plant emerges from your soil media, you're going to want to try to supply it with 16 hours of daylight per day, which can be supplemented with grow lights. Alright, so now your plants have developed, they're looking more mature, and the way you can tell when it's time to actually transplant out into the garden, weather permitting that is when you see your roots start to protrude out the bottom of the pot. I'll pull this plant out here for you so you can see the root system that we have developed. This is perfect. The plant's not root bound, it's not twirling inside the pot, but the roots have fully spread throughout the potting mix here, holding it all together like a block. This plant is going to do extremely well going out into the garden. And if you are using the peat pods, I'll give you a quick look at how I pot those up as well, using some red solo cups. Another bonus tip for you is to save all your seed packs, whether you have leftover seeds or not. You can take a Ziploc bag and date it with the year that you're planting out the crops. That way, if you have a successful crop or something that you may not want to grow again, you can always refer back to the exact type of seed that you grew and the supplier, which is going to help you over time to hone in to what seeds you're having the best success with. It's just a great way to keep track of everything. And if you're saving seeds, it's great because you can always go back and make sure that you're identifying what you've saved by its exact variety. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. I sure do appreciate you being here. I value your time very much. If you did get something out of this video today, I sure would appreciate it if you smash the like button. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel. New uploads every week, sometimes every day. And I'm always sharing with you all the different things growing on around here. So with that, have yourself a good one. Until next time, this is Dan from plantabundance.com. Take care. I'll be talking to you again soon.